guys, Ivan here with the Old School Labs, and I'm going to make this video, which I didn't really plan on making, because if you guys have been following me for a while, I'm sure you know what's my stance on this, and that I think that Heath is far better bodybuilder than Brandon Curry. But I'm talking about Heath when he's on. Not necessarily at his prime, because that's pretty much unbeatable. Who can beat Heath at his prime? Ronnie Coleman? And that's it? I guess maybe Jay Cutler, but he wasn't really that good too many years. 2009 version of Jay Cutler could maybe beat Heath's version in 2011, 12 or 13 because he was wider to the shoulders and overall bigger. But back then, when Jay was the reigning champ, he was beating Phil in pretty much all the poses and even from behind. Because Jay was bigger, again, he was bigger, but then later, let's not even consider 2011 because Jay was injured. And that wasn't his 100%, not even close. So 2010 version of Jay Cutler was beating Phil even from behind, if you ask me. But later, next year and in the coming years, Phil improved his back so much. Not just his back, but his glutes, his legs grew, his hamstrings are, in my opinion, one of the best hamstrings ever and one of the most conditioned hamstrings ever. His waist is smaller than Jay's. So he improved his back double bicep and back lat spread so much. So it's debatable. Jay at his best versus Phil at his best, I think it could go either way, but Phil is, let's say, more complete. Jay was also very complete, but he wasn't complete in terms of conditioning. His back always had those wrinkles and it was never super dry. 2009, it was the closest to dryness, but Phil's back was always super peeled. It had a density to it, complete development, it was just a really good back, so it's debatable. Then you take, for example, Dorian Yates. Now Dorian, he was more conditioned than anybody, than any bodybuilder ever, than any Mr. Olympia ever probably, but he wasn't complete again, he didn't have arms, his chest wasn't as big and as full as Phil's, not even shoulders. Quads, I guess they had pretty much similar quads, not a lot of striations, not a lot of feathers, but maybe Phil had a bit more rounder quads, a bit bigger sweep to them. And let's use, for example, Dorian's 1996 version, or 1993 is my favorite, but 1996 is probably more comparable because he was a little bit bigger then. If you compare that to Heath, Phil had completeness. He was a more complete package, but Dorian had that grainy, super gnarly conditioning. So it will be close. And that's, in my opinion, it. Like, Ronnie was better, Jay and Dorian maybe would be better, but probably not. So, in my opinion, Heath is the second best bodybuilder in the world. And Ronnie Coleman is the first one, of course. Third one would be Jay Cutler and then Dorian Yates, and then I will go with Kai Green, actually, not any other Mr. Olympia winner. But that's me talking about the judging criteria, the way it is, because I understand it. It's not my personal favorite choice. My personal favorite bodybuilder is Dorian Yates. The second would be Jay Cutler. And then the others. I wouldn't consider Ronnie Coleman the best, because I mean, he's the best. That's no doubt about that. But I didn't like his physique too much. I didn't find it that special, you know. Dorian had more imperfections and he wasn't as big and as full as Ronnie, so judging criteria would probably, most likely, very likely be in Ronnie's favor. But I just happen to like Dorian's physique more because it was more unique, if you ask me, and Jay's as well. And I'm getting the hell away from the topic, I'm rambling right here, but if I just talked about how can Brandon beat Phil, it would be like 1 minute long video. So I hope you guys enjoy this little rant about who is better bodybuilder than Phil at his prime. And as it turns out, Phil is second best bodybuilder ever. So what do you think about Brandon? Does anybody really has Brandon in that top 5 or top 10 best bodybuilders of all time? In my opinion, I find Flex Wheeler, Kai Green, Sean Roden, Kevin Levrone, even Nasser somebody, Sean Ray, all these guys, in my opinion, are better bodybuilders than Brandon Curry. Brandon won because he was where he needed to be at perfect time. So, Brandon at his prime, which is 2019 Arnold Classic version, versus 2011, 2012, 2013, any show versions of Heath, not a chance. 2018 version of Heath, that was actually beaten by Sean Roden, would that be able to beat Brandon Curry at his prime? I think so too. Yes, because of the legs. Because Brandon has a glaring weakness. It is too glaring. It is a really bad one. It just destroys the flow of his physique. He's really dominant upstairs, but the legs are just unfortunately not that good. If he had good legs, he would be one of the best bodybuilders ever, probably, because he's really good upstairs. But no symmetry, no legs. Now, let's talk about how can Brandon actually beat Phil. And there are some things to consider. First of all, you guys must have noticed the progress that Brandon was able to make year after year. He was always much better than the year before. So he had a full year right now. He didn't do Arnold. He had a good off season to refresh his body, to make improvements, hopefully in the legs. And that's one thing that is probably the best thing about Brandon, him being able to make progress year after year, even in these years that he's in right now, because he's not a youngster. He's a bit older guy, and he still makes progress, a lot of progress. So we'll see if he's gonna make like a huge improvement this year, because he needs that against Phil. He definitely does need that. So that's one thing. If that happens, if Brandon comes much improved, we need to look at Phil. Like, how much did Phil improve? If he comes the way he was in 2018, I don't see Brandon improving that much to be able to beat that. I just don't see it happen. But if Phil comes a little bit off, more than he was 2018, if he comes, soft, which is actually quite possible. I feel like Phil made this comeback, quote unquote, because there is no Athleticon. And I think once he starts doing Athleticon, he's going to stay loyal to it. I don't think he's going to go back to Mr. Olympia. So this year, Athleticon is not happening, and that's why he decided to do Mr. Olympia. And Mr. Olympia is also not certain. We don't know if it's going to happen actually. Who knows, is there going to be another wave of the virus? So maybe Olympia is also going to be delayed or, cancelled. And in that case, Phil, had a hype about him. People are talking about him. And that works for his brand, for his money, for his pockets, for his wallet. So that's one thing. And maybe for that, he's not going to try too hard. Maybe he's going to come a little bit off. Maybe Brandon is going to come super on. And maybe Phil's stomach, the bubble gut, is going to look even worse. So there is a possibility, in my opinion. I think there is a chance for Brandon to actually beat him. But there are other factors to consider. Big Ramy. Is Big Ramy going to be competing? Can he finally figure out the formula with Chad Nichols? It could happen. Is Sean Roden coming back? Flex Lewis is competing also. He's not going to be 212. He's going to be like 225, 230, which is going to be a huge leap for him. He's going to be a freak on that stage. He can surprise us all as well. There's also William Bonac, of course. Rolly Winkler, too. So it's not only Brandon versus Phil, but it's Phil against anybody else, really. So we'll see. It's Phil's show to lose. He's 7 times Mr. Olympia champion, and he was barely beaten by Sean Roden. The opinions of people are really divided. The reason why he lost it was obviously simply one thing, and that was his bubble gut. That was it. So again, it's Phil's show to lose. If he comes off, and if Brandon makes super huge improvements, or not just Brandon, anybody else, but this is the topic that we're talking about today. If Brandon, who is the title holder currently, if he comes improved and really conditioned, he comes with a little bit bigger, fuller legs, and Phil comes a little bit off, it can actually happen. Brandon can actually win another Mr. Olympia and beat Phil Heath, and by doing that, he's gonna prove himself. That's gonna be a huge success for Brandon, and hopefully he's aware of that, and he's gonna try his hardest. So this Olympia is going to be much more exciting now that we have Phil Heath in. Whatever you guys think. Can Brandon beat him or not? Can anybody else beat Phil? Is it really Phil's show to lose? Whatever is on your mind, just please tell me down below in the comment section. Like the video if you enjoyed it, and please subscribe for more bodybuilding videos like this. All the best, guys, and keep it old school.